Hey everybody, I'm back. It's Johnny Pialu, and we will be reviewing episode 7 of season 1 of Interview with the Vampire. This is the season finale, and this episode is called The Thing Lay Still. I really have enjoyed Interview with the Vampire so far, and because I really enjoy the dark elements of like the Southern Gothic and how they are incorporating now with the original Interview with the Vampire, both characters were white, and then with Louis being Creole, him being a black man, that racial tone, but it's not like classically done. And with what I mean classically done, it's not just very like you say traditional, like, explicitly telling things about, the traumatic experience of the African American experience historically in that region in the United States, pretty much. But I do love the elements of the queerness in it, LGBTQ. I also love the Southern Gothic. I love the vampire. I love the different takes that they have put on this. So I most definitely am a huge fan of this show. I will be reviewing season 2, and I'll have my reviews up there as well. So if you have enjoyed the reviews so far, check into those as well. But with this episode, it's called The Thing Lay Still. And from the last episode of episode 6, we ended with Daniel recognizing Rashid from his dream when he met Louis in 1973. So when we open with this episode, Daniel is with Louis and he's talking. Of course, he's interviewing him, but Daniel cannot seem to stop looking at Rashid. And I think Louis is starting to pick up on it, just kind of like maybe trying to pick up on what Daniel is trying to observe. But Daniel keeps looking at Rashid and he's like, I know you from somewhere. Why did I see you? But it's like, why did I see you? Like, scary. Like, why did I see you and why did I see you? But during this time, that's when he's asking Louis, can a vampire meet immortality? And he's explaining to him all the different ways. He was saying, of course, um, by fire, decapitation, drinking the blood of the sick or the dead, and that was kind of touched on early on in the season. But he's also saying how challenging it would be for him and Claudia to try to kill Lestat because Lestat is a older vampire, and not only is he just an older vampire, Lestat is a descendant of an extremely powerful lineage of vampires. And that those powers have only been passed on to Claudia and Louis in very diminished forms. I.e., that's why you can see that Louis doesn't have the cloud gift, but Lestat does. So that's something that a power that Lestat has that even though he's Louis's maker, it didn't get passed on to Louis. So also during this time, more people are starting to approach their house. Of course, they've been living there for years and they are like considered the weird people. People consider them the devil. People are leaving voodoo dolls at their door. Um, and we see that there's this man at the table and they're like draining him but have his arm tied up to where like his vein is just cut open over the open glass and it's just pouring out the blood for them to drink throughout the night. And it's just like this man is literally dying slowly. His blood is just draining out of him. And then another man ends up approaching the house and he writes a letter saying that people say demons are in 1132 Rue Royale. He said, no, they're angels. He said, I believe they're angels. And then they end up snapping his neck and bleed and Lestat feeds on him. But he spits his blood out because he had cancer and he could taste it in his blood. And the man came, I guess, for some type of I guess he thought they could heal him in some type of superstitial way, or supernatural way or whatever. Also, at the end of last episode, Claudia said that her plan to get rid of Lestat is to get rid of his ass, is to kill him. And her and Louis have agreed to do it. But Claudia is not sharing her plans with Louis, which is very smart because, not saying that I think Louis would tell Lestat the plan, but Louis would just be so vulnerable. And I think that Lestat will most definitely pick up on something is up. So she's keeping her thoughts to herself and everything. So one night they are in a streetcar, and I do like in these elements where race is a big part of the storyline, but it's not so in your face, and then they're able to do it with small implicit things, so you don't feel so, especially for a black audience, you don't feel so emotionally overwhelmed by the storyline, even though the storyline is emotionally in depth. But you also don't get triggered by everything constantly, even though you know this is a triggering storyline in some cases. But even in some ways that they remind us of this time and the racial disparities, is that we see Lestat sitting in the front and Claudia and Louis sitting in the back, and they're sitting together. And Lestat, throughout the ride, he looks back and he makes glances at Louis. So in the streetcar, Claudia finally explains a portion of her plan to Louis. And her plan for Louis, in their plan to kill Lestat, is for Louis to simply let go and just fall into the abyss of his feelings for Lestat. And I think that was very smart on Claudia's part, because I think that she knows that Louis is so emotionally fragile in a way that I don't think that I think she knows that right now he cannot handle such an active part in the plan. Like, she's going to have to ease him in it, because, and I guess that's the best way, because also she needs to disarm Lestat. And what does Lestat want from Louis more than anything? He wants his love and affection, especially in the way and in the freedom that he gives it to Claudia. And I truly believe that that's what he's most jealous of, like how freely and how openly and how loudly Louis loves Claudia. And Claudia always feels that, but his consistency, his loyalty is to Lestat. So her playing on that, she was like, I just need you to just give your all to him. And he's like, and Louis says he can't because he will lose himself in Lestat. And I think for some people that I mean that sounds romantic, but it also kind of sounds very sad, and it also reassures, like, that's what Lestat wants. Lestat wants Louis to see nobody but him. Like, he can't see the forest for the trees. His ending, middle, and beginning is Lestat. And we see how Louis, he eventually just lets go and just goes into his feelings with Lestat. And we see how it is changing. Like, they're decorating a tree. It looks like it's probably around Christmas time. Lestat seems to be in the holiday spirit, playing at the piano, and you can just see that, especially in his reactions towards Claudia. Like, we see these montages. I don't know if I'm saying it right, where they're like sitting at the table, and Lestat pulls Louis into him even more. And that little scene, because Lestat was sitting down, Louis was standing up, and Claudia was standing to the side of him. And he, even in that moment, just made sure to pull Louis more into him. And I feel like Claudia caught on to that. She just kind of looked like, you would do something like that. But like I said, we transitioned to Louis decorating the tree. And Claudia comes in to the living room. Lestat is playing Bach. And she was like, you always play Bach. And I guess he was like, you wouldn't appreciate it or whatever. She was like, yes, the music of the master race is not good enough for my mongrel ears. I I absolutely love how Claudia, like, really, she is not afraid to like go there with him. Like, yes, You're just so perfect. And like just really making, she says these things to just get under his skin, and it does. And he's like, your very presence irritates me. Um, but that's when she sits down and they, they start to play a little nice nasty. She sits down and starts playing the piano with him and tells him of this big surprise that she had, or plan that she has for when they leave. And he talking about, well, if you was thinking about it, then I know it was rather small. See, that's why you get cussed out. That's why folks say what they say to you. It's like, but she tells them that they should play on, they should kind of use the notoriety that the community has against them in their favor. They've been having people come up to their house trying to figure out, well, what is the secret, and how are they staying so young? What is it? Everybody's so like, ooh, what is about them? So she was like, let's have a party and invite them in, because they don't know that they themselves are the sustenance of us. They are our fountain of youth. They are the feast. And Lestat was a bit apprehensive, kind of like, but I think he was probably shocked by how genius it was. He didn't come up with it. Claudia came up with it. Um. So yeah. So they end up going to. They end up meeting. Well, during this time, she keeps pushing for the party, and Louis is telling her in his head, "Stop pushing for this party. It's gonna make him suspicious." And she's like, "I want him to be suspicious. I want him to think." And I think in her mind, she wants him to think that he's gonna be ahead of her, so he can go full out in whatever his plan is, and she'll have a counteract to that. Claudia is 10 steps ahead of Lestat. Just like she said, if you want to beat Lestat, you have to become Lestat and be 5 steps ahead. So baby girl is on her. She is on her shit. Um. So her when she said when she said a party, the party she was talking about was Mardi Gras, because Mardi Gras is huge in New Orleans. That is like a pivotal part of their culture and their identity, as a city and as a region and as a culture. And it's every year in February. It's January now, so they're like, it's very close. And Lestat was like, but then he said, but if we starve ourselves for a few days, the hunger will be so strong that we will just pig out on that feast. And at that point, now he is for sure like, okay, I like this idea. Um, looking over my notes. So they meet with Tom. Remember Tom Anderson? His character keeps popping back up. I can't remember what exactly his job title is, but I know he's in the politics. When they meet with Tom Anderson, we understand that since the last time they met with Tom Anderson, which was in episode 4 or 5, when Claudia ran away, after they had the police that came in and did that raid in their house. So it's been 17 years since they have seen Tom Anderson, and he puts out a picture for Claudia, and he's like, Do you see a difference between now and when I first met your two-tone daddies?" And she was like, "You didn't have that little mark on your face. Mind you, remember when Lestat had made an X on his face, like X marked the spot." And that, oh my goodness, when we go to the end of the episode, that is gonna make so much sense. X marks the spot. Um, he's older and he realizes that they haven't aged, and they want Lestat to be Raj of Mardi Gras, which is pretty much the king of Mardi Gras. And there's a separate committee that makes those decisions. And he's like, it's January and it's going to be in February. These things are playing out years ahead. And that's when they say, yeah, but we know you're a businessman, you're into manufacturing and shipping, through the ship, through all of these boats that you have. And they're like, didn't you just lose one? He was like, yes. He was like, would you like another one? They pretty much bribed the man. And he falls. And then he says, and he asked him a question. He was like, "Where did you meet the devil, and what are the arrangements, or whatever?" So he himself picks up on that there is a much darker energy with Louis and Lestat. There is something on the other side that humans and them on their side cannot comprehend, and they know it's of something of other, so they want to call it the devil. A lot of times, people, something that they don't understand, they immediately vilify it. But it's so interesting that they will call Louis and Lestat the devil, but they themselves do devilish things. They themselves are racist. They are sexist. They are liars and thieves. Like they're stealing money from through the government, the corrupt practices, and stealing money from making it hard for Black people of that time to be enfranchised and have mobility, upward mobility, whether through career, politics, all of those things. So they're just, if not devilish, if not even more. So it's just really like the pot trying to call the kettle black. And I really think that there's so many different aspects you can go on a tangent. Um, so the plan is to starve themselves for 3 days, and while they are at the party, they will be asking people, do you want the secret to immortality? And if they say yes, you will give them a boutonniere, and that's to kind of like mark and tag them on the people that they plan on inviting back to their house for the final kill. So while at the party, Louis is just falling deeper and deeper into the abyss of his feelings for Lestat and the confusion around it and how it relates to their plan. And not only is he falling more because Claudia wants him to just give into Lestat, but also them not eating for 3 days has them delirious. And Lestat can handle himself. Claudia, she has something to be very focused on, and Louis is just kind of like they're throughout the party, you know, mingling with the who's who. And so Louis during this time is hearing other thoughts, like telepathically. So that would make us think, is he hearing another vampire? So he thinks it's Claudia. And Claudia's like, I didn't say that. I didn't know. Yeah, that's not me. And so he just shakes it off like, okay, maybe he's just that delirious because he hasn't had any blood for 3 days. Like they have really starved themselves. So he runs into Tom and he asks him, do you want the secret to immortality? And he said, do you know the secret to immortality? And Tom says to never get married. It's so funny how men they'll have these these negative sayings about marriage, but they're the ones who benefit the most from it. And it's like, well, you're the one who, y'all group are the one who fighting and trying to force people to marry y'all. But yet you'll say, topic for another day. So he encounters Tom. He puts a boutonniere on him, tagging him. But unbeknownst to Louis, someone is watching him, and he's not aware. But he goes onto the balcony, and Lestat is already on the balcony smoking a cigarette. He's taking off his wig because he's the king of Raj. He's taking off his wig and everything. So they have this moment where Lestat is just kind of talking about how he's going to miss life in New Orleans when they leave, and they have all their plans to, they have enough stuff for 3 people to get away once everything is done. And Lestat is looking at Louis with a very longing look, like he's sad, and it's like he's sad because he knows something's about to happen, and it's like he just seems like he's carrying something so heavy and emotional. And he says, "So desperately fragile, but so desperately alive," or something like that. And I think he's just talking about himself in their situation. Like he is fragile. he is fragile in a sense of in his relationship with Louis. He's fragile in a way that even though he is the physically the most powerful, emotionally he is the most fragile because he is so enwrapped in having Louis all to him, and it's like all or nothing. And when it doesn't go the way he wants, he kind of acts out, and it just tears up the relationship he has with Louis. And then it also just gets him back at square one. Louis is still not going to be that receptive and that open. And I think he realizes that all that he has done so far has made Louis feel a way about him. And I think that he knows that him and Claudia have something planned. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but I also feel as if he feels as if, but I'm gonna counteract it, and what's gonna happen is gonna be sad for everyone involved, and I hate that. He just kind of has this like something bad is about to happen, and I hate it, babe. But I love you, and I hate that something's bad is about to like that. That's just kind of his feel and aura about it. So he asked Louis for a final dance, and they go out and have this dance on the floor. And Louis is just by this point he is my man, my man, my man. He is just done for. Stick a fork in him. Lestat is twirling him around, looking him deep in his eyes, and they embrace and they kiss in front of everybody. To everybody's surprise and disgust in a way, which is so crazy. Like it's like y'all already suspected that these two men were a couple. Y'all already have little jokes where y'all calling them derogatory names and stuff, and then when y'all finally see them kiss, y'all like, no, they actually do be over there doing each other. Y'all already know that. They not doing Claudia. She no, but they kiss, and Louis, you can hear his background because remember he's still talking to Daniel. And he's like, so much stuff was written about that night, but that particular part was never written about. That's how disgusted they were about that part. So it moves. So, okay, before that, Claudia goes over there and intervenes. She gets Louis. She bites him on the wrist while she dances with him. And she like, snap out of it. Cause one thing that she said when they was in the streetcar, yes, fall for him, but leave a little bit of space for me to come back. So don't forget the plot, homeboy. Don't forget why we here. Don't forget the plot. So come on, girl. You I'm about to lose you. Let me pull you back. So it moves to their house where they have lured the party goers, including Tom. He has a boutonniere where they are telling them the story about this ancient alchemy that was made for, immortality and forever youth and everything, and how Lestat drunk it and he brought it here for his um friends to drink it as well, alluding to Claudia and Louis. And they go on and tell how old they are. And at this time, we learn that at this point, even though Claudia was turned at the age of, I believe, 14, she's now technically 36 years old. So she is a grown woman. Louis, at this time, I believe, is 61 years old. He was born in 1878, and I think it's 1930 something now, and he is 61. Lestat drunk the wine in 1780 or something like that. Well, he was born 1748, and I think he drunk it in 1780. He is now 179 years old and will be turning 180 years old come this November. That's what he said. So he either Sagittarius or Scorpio. But just off of that saying it. And if that's the case, I believe if they did when we zoomed in on Louis' tombstone, didn't it say he was born in October? Are Louis and Lestat both Scorpios? I don't know. That's even if you do astrology. So, unbeknownst to them, there is poison Um, I believe in the boutonnieres or however it may be. Or okay, so Claudia got laudanum and arsenic to poison them to be able to drink their blood, and it's going to make them feel like they're drunk, but really their veins are swollen. Wow. So Tom Anderson, who's really the really drunk one, like falling over, he's like, "Oh, so the potion is in this bucket," and so he takes the top off of it, and he's like, "It's empty." And that's when Lestat says, "Not for long," and that's when they all attack, and he goes after Tom, bites him, and starts immediately draining him. And by this time, everyone is like, they realize that, oh shit. I don't even know what they're realizing at that moment. They know that they are going to be slaughtered. And that is exactly what happens. Them people fight as hard as they can, but they have three vampires on their ass. And the oldest one is almost 200 years old. Yeah, girl. They not going to get away. And the doors are locked. The windows are locked. There's no way for them to get out. So at the end, I don't know if I said this, but at the party there were two twins. Well, there were a pair of twins, and Lestat was extremely enthralled with them because they smelled of rosemary, and that smell really like excited him, and he most definitely wanted to eat them up. Literally, he wanted to eat them up. So they are upstairs, and the twins, they're throwing up. They're frantic. They know they're about to die, and you overhear one of them. So you overhear one of them screaming. So one of them is gone. I think Louis ends up draining one of them. So they leave one for Lestat. So he comes up, and this is when everything is coming to a head because you can feel the tension, and you're like, okay, what is about to happen? How is his plan about to move forward? And then the way he walks in like, oh, you bitches thought y'all had me, but I got something up my sleeve for y'all ass. So that's so you just looking like, what the hell is about to happen? So, um, the twin is sitting, the one who is still alive, but he almost looked like he's unconscious or his eyes are closed. Lestat punctures his neck and his blood starts to come out. And he's like, I smell rosemary. And he's like, I smell something else. What is it, my love? And Louis says, I think it must be the gin. Trying to say it was the boy drinking. Like everybody, you could see like nervous, like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Louis especially. Louis especially is sitting there like, ooh, I hope he don't notice that I'm lying. Then I hope Claudia don't. I hope Claudia don't think I'm blowing the plan. Like he just looked like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And Lestat says, I wasn't talking to you. Then we hear laudanum and arsenic. In walks Antoinette's ass. Yes, the bitch is alive and well, and she's a fucking vampire. And that's when she all of the little things that Louis was hearing throughout the party, like the little sayings like, oh, you miserable dog. She is repeating it. And then she's also repeating what Louis and Claudia were saying to each other telepathically while at the party. When she was like, because when she came and bit Louis, he said, oh, I don't want to go through with it now. Because mind you, he is deep deep into his feelings for Lestat. Just like she said, fall into that abyss. And he was like, we can't do it. And she said, it's too late. I'm already done it. And she said, who? One of the twins. And that's what Antoinette heard. And so she relayed that back to Lestat. And that's why Lestat is not going to drink the twins' blood because Claudia said she poisoned one of the twins. Right? So Antoinette goes after Claudia. Louis is about to go after Antoinette because he going after Claudia. I mean, she's going after Claudia, and he like, bitch, not my baby. And Lestat is restraining him back. And so Lestat is like, Louis, Antoinette was a much better fit. And he Antoinette is legit trying to get Claudia to feed on the twin that they said was poisoned so that she can be poisoned and end up dying. But Lestat starts to throw up blood. He starts to throw up blood and he lets go of Louis. That distracts everyone because they're like, oh shit, what the hell is going on? Through that distraction, Claudia takes one of like the fire torches from the fireplace and stabs Antoinette like to the floor with it. And that's when Lestat realizes Claudia got over on his ass. This is how Claudia showed how fucking genius she was. She knew that Antoinette had been turned the whole time. If we go back to, I believe it was episode 5 or 6, when we see that Lestat didn't kill Antoinette, he was over there with her, and we see where we hear him telling Antoinette he loves her, and Louis finds out that Lestat lied and he's still seeing her. It was implied that Lestat turned her, and Lestat wasn't aware that Louis and Claudia overheard that. I don't think maybe Louis overheard it, but it's possible Claudia did. And so throughout, we're seeing montages where Antoinette was there. She was there when they were in the streetcar. She had like this black hat on and this black overcoat suit to camouflage herself. She was there when Claudia was going to get on that train, when Louis had gave her the blessing to leave. That's how Lestat knew where she was at to even come get her, because Antoinette is now following Louis and Lestat and reporting back. I mean, Louis and Claudia and reporting back to Lestat. So just like when Claudia went to the, I guess you could say the drugstore and bought the poison, she was aware that, um, yeah, she was aware that Antoinette was there following her. So she has been very careful because she is aware that Antoinette is there. So we find out that it wasn't the twin who was poisoned, because Lestat, he's on his knees and bleeding out, and she says, who? And she says, he who called you him. And that is relevant because when they were at Tom Anderson's office wanting to pretty much bribe him to make Lestat, the king of Mardi Gras, he pointed to him like, him, like he just laughed at him, like he thought it was funny that he would even want to be like, you, the king of Raj, and you could tell that that pissed Lestat off. That was like a bruise to his ego, like he was making light of him, like he ain't good enough to be the king of Raj, like you ain't even cute enough. Mind you, Lestat is very attractive. So when Claudia picked up on that, so when they were killing and they were feeding, Tom was the first person that Lestat went after. And whose drink was actually poisoned with the laudanum and arsenic? It was Tom's. And that's why when they were telling the story, everybody else was like, ooh, like really into it. Tom was all over, like about to fall over drunk. He was the one who had the laudanum and arsenic in his blood because it was impacting his blood vessels, making him feel like he's drunk, but he's actually been poisoned. That's who Lestat drunk blood from. And so now the poison is in his body. But she told Louis it was one of the twins because she knew Antoinette was listening and was going to tell it back to Lestat. So therefore, Lestat was going to think it was one of the twins, not realizing you already got when you bit into Tom. Girl, Claudia said, don't sleep on me, boo. Don't sleep on me. That will be the worst mistake you ever made. Don't sleep on me. So he starts, so Lestat is pretty much on, he's bleeding out blood. He's no longer big, strong Lestat. Mind you, he has poison in his veins now because he drank the blood of Tom. So his body is like convulsing. He's throwing up blood everywhere. So Antoinette is on the floor. Claudia goes over there and stomps her out, which I was very happy. Stomp the bitch, Claudia. Stomp her ass. And She looks to Louis about Lestat and she says, "Have your final goodbye." And that's when Lestat realizes that, oh, they are gonna get me. And Louis, I think he was planning to have to watch out for Claudia. He thought Claudia was gonna be the one to give him the final straw. No, it was Louis. Louis was the one who had, I guess, one of those knives that you pull out. And when Lestat saw Louis, like he looked up and the look in his eye was like disbelief, fear, um, betrayal, and also like also relief a little bit. And also still love. It was like when he looked up at Louis, it was just like, baby, I can't believe it's you, but it's you. And Louis, he himself is crying. He himself is crying. Like Louis, even as he puts his arm around Lestat's chest to bring him up against his body, he's crying. He is fighting this battle. He does not want to do this. And the whole time, Lestat is saying, I have loved you. I haven't loved anyone as much as I love you. I've loved you with all of myself. And he says, you know what? If anyone that is going to kill me, I'm I'm glad it was you. I'm glad to possibly lose his life to Louis' hands. And that's interesting because even in his final moments, he still feels safe with Louis. And I think even in that moment that Louis is supposed to give him his death, there's something freeing about it, and not freeing. It's something freeing, but also you see the pain once again of Louis. I think even in this moment, even all that Lestat has been, it's still going to be hard to realize that he will lose him. And he brings the knife around across his neck, and Lestat bleeds out, and his body falls to the floor. And he was like, "The thing lay still," and that is what the episode is called. The thing lay still. This big, powerful, ferocious being that was Lestat is now just laying still as his eyes are just wandering and he's bleeding out. It's like he was once so big and now he's so small. It's even hard for Claudia and Louis to wrap their mind around it. And they're cleaning up the house. They put Antoinette in the incinerator and they watch her burn together. But they go back and look over Lestat's body, and you can just see it's like a somber stillness. It's like he's gone, and then now it's like, now what? So it's very cathartic, extremely cathartic. And I think both of them might have thought that getting rid of him would give this relief, and it didn't. Um, because Claudia, she said, we have to burn him, and she's like, and Louis is like, I can't, just putting him in there like he's one of the rest. And she said, I never had to do it for someone that I, and then she stopped. And I wonder what she about to say, someone that she loved. Because she did once love Lestat. And I think she still did love Lestat in a way. She just hated him. And I think we know that the opposite of hate is love. And hate is what happens when love goes sour. And Lestat soured her love for him through how he was raising her and what happened with Charlie. But she loved him. And I feel, and I mean, maybe not as much as she loved Louis, but she loved him. So they end up wrapping Lestat up, putting him out to the trash, And we are back in present day. And Daniel was like, oh, what a perfect little bow on a story. But he was like, no, I'm calling bullshit. He was like, why didn't you burn him? And he was like, we couldn't. And he was like, that's not true. He was like, he read Claudia's journal. Claudia recorded Louis Lestat's last words in his own blood. She stuck a pin in his neck with his own blood and wrote in her journal, put me in my coffin, Louis, Louis. He was like, she had no problem with burning his ass. And when he was reading her journals later on, he could tell that the relationship between Claudia and Louis fragmented even more because Louis didn't want to burn Lestat. And then we see an overview of what actually happened. Claudia's like, we have to burn him, we have to burn him. And he said, no, we have to burn him. And Louis pins her up against a dresser with his hand around her neck. I said no, which is also reminiscent of how Lestat had his hand around her neck when right before Louis and Lestat had that big fight. And we see Claudia in that moment, she's crying. And Daniel was like, no, she was upset with you. She hated your guts because by you not burning Lestat, she once again felt like you chose him over her. And he said, where does the trash go? To a landfill. And what are in landfills? Big ass rats that a vampire can feed on with enough blood to bring them back to life. And considering the casket has locks on the inside, he said, you spared him. You didn't really want to kill your man. You actually helped him. You actually helped him bleed out all that poisonous blood in his body. And Claudia feels like you chose him over her. And he is just going in on Louis. And he's like, you know what? You've been bullshitting me. Just give me my money. You playing games. Like, just stop it. And then we hear Rashid in the back saying, like, let up off of him. Stop while you still can. Louis walks into a room to get away from Daniel. He's still talking shit in the back. And he was like, what makes it different now than the bullshit you was telling me in 1973? And then we turn and we see that Rashid has ascended. And he said, the difference is that I won't save your life this time. Girl, what? And then Rashid flies across the room on his bookshelf, picks a book up, and tosses it to Daniel. And Daniel sees him come down. And he's like, you're a vampire? He's like, no, I've seen you in the sun. What the fuck? And he's like, what? He's like, the sun loses its power over them as they age. And he was like, what is a sun to a 514-year-old vampire? Bitch, what the hell? Rashid is a damn vampire. 515 years old. And that's when he comes down and he holds Louis' hand. And Louis says, Daniel, I would like you to meet the love Armand, the vampire Armand, the love of my life. First of all, bitch, what? This has been your boyfriend, your man the whole time. And secondly, the love of my life didn't even sound believable. The love of my life. No. No. And Daniel is just flabbergasted. And he's like, you don't remember him? And he's like, no. But Daniel remembers him, but he doesn't. And that's a lot going into season 2. I'm really excited to review season 2. If you all have enjoyed season 1, please let me know in the comments. Like the video, watch them, and come back. I'll be back for season 2. And thank you for watching. I absolutely love this show. If you saw something or if you like my commentary, please let me know. Or if you have a different take, let me know that as well. And I'll see you all next time.